Hi, I'm Madeleine Bergram. I work as Sustainability Manager for HP in the Nordics, and today we're going to look into sustainable purchasing made easy. So thank you for taking the time to be here with us. The desired outcome of this is actually that you will find your way to the tools which will make sustainable purchasing easy. So, well, as you know, sustainability is everywhere today, and you might have been asked, managing from an IT management perspective, what is your role in the organization related to sustainability? How can you contribute? And if so, wouldn't it be great to have a tool that's easy to use and where there are easy to adopt directly criteria to include in tenders, and also a way to verify the responses you get. I hope you feel that you feel that you've seen this situation before, and that is what we're going to try to cover today to make this easy. So I'm going to go through some global trends on sustainable procurement and also some Nordic trends. And then we're going to go into to see how often are sustainability criteria used in IT procurement and what type of topics are asked for. And then, of course, the tools. We have some tools, but there are other tools out there. That's the agenda for today. So first, I think it's always good to kind of tell about the definition. What do we actually mean when we say sustainable procurement? Well, there is a definition from the procurement platform within ICLEI, and that is a public organization or a network of public purchasers in Europe. And as you can see here, sustainable procurement means making sure that the products and services an organization buys achieve value for money, of course, and then generate benefits, but not only for the organization, but also for the environment, society, and the economy. So it's a kind of a broad thing. It's three different aspects that needs to be covered. That's a very good definition. It could be a bit overwhelming, but it's a good definition. So what is important then when it comes to IT and sustainability? Well, I mean, what aspects should you really try to cover when you put forward requirements in purchasing? We can have a look at the climate footprint because the greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide, it's the currency for environment, as we say. And what you see here is the climate footprint of HP, the total climate footprint. And we have, you can kind of translate the use of materials into a certain carbon dioxide emissions. So that's what we've done. So if you look to the left, you see the manufacturing production phase, over to the operations phase, the HP Denmark, for instance, or HP offices and so on. And then to the right, you have products and solutions. And as you can see, we have chosen 2019 because 2020 was a very specific year, not normal, so to say. So as you can see, for personal systems, for instance, that is where we have our displays and computers. The main impact is actually in production. And for print, the main impact is from paper use. So therefore, you need to address these two different product groups a bit differently. For PCs, for instance, it's key to see to that they can be used as long as possible. And that's something you need to take into account when you put forward criteria in purchasing. So moving forward then, to some global trends. What do we see globally? Well, this is from a report from EcoVadis. They have listened to thousands of different companies and organizations, and they also see how is the trend, what will change in the coming year. Sorry. So what will change in the coming year? Well, if you look at these graphs, it shows that labor and human rights is really an area that will take off. We will see more procurement criteria and questions so on related to human rights. If you look at business ethics, for instance, it's kind of flat. The trend is flat. So things like bribery or competitive issues and so on, this is something that has been around for some time, and it won't change that much. And then, of course, environment, different types of environmental questions having to do with waste or climate impact and so on is also there. That's the global outlook. Then if we go to the Nordics, these are figures that we actually gather as HP, because as much as we can, because of course there are lots of people doing sales within HP, and we're a big company and so on, and most of it also, a major part of it is also handled by our channel partners, of course. But we try to follow which topics are of interest. And in the 4 Nordic countries, the last 2 years, this is the result. So on top is actually specific chemicals used. But as the second in rank is different types of eco-labels. But then you also see quite high on place number 5 here is the code of conduct, and that means, you know, social and environmental aspects in the supply chain and code of conduct of companies that they want us to follow, or other IT procurers. In Denmark, if we look at Denmark, what we've seen the last 2 years is that eco-labels are actually on top, TCO, EPEAT, Energy Star, but also packaging. So packaging is a bit more interesting for procurers than in the rest of the Nordics, and it has also, one reason could be that packaging legislation hasn't come that far for our types of products in Denmark yet. So we try to follow this as much as we can, and it's just because we want to know, of course, what the market is interested in and what the market values. So, well, how to integrate sustainability criteria into procurement process? If we go to the global outlook again, this is again from this EcoVadis procurement barometer, sustainable procurement, and what the leaders say. So they've looked into the mature companies. Actually, many of them look into the suppliers. Of course, they think that if you have a well-kept company, if your supplier is financially stable and have good management systems and so on, that will make also the products that they produce and services that they offer to be of good quality and so on. So 7 out of 10 look into the supplier evaluation. And then as the second topic comes the, including sustainability in tenders and tender criteria. And we have some ideas for you later on for this. So, but I did mention maturity level, and this is a bit of a wordy slide, so to say, lots of words on it, but I wanted to emphasize that there are lots of different maturity levels, because as we said in the beginning, sustainable procurement is quite broad. It takes into account society, economy, and social topics, and environment, and so on. So on the one side of the scale, you actually have on top here, it's a UK customer, over $100 million tender. So it's a really huge tender, so thousands of products. But they have very kind of broad questions, such as, how will you influence buyer behavior to reduce waste and resources? How will you train the people that will talk to, that will help the customer to use the products, or how will you train even the customer, and so on. And the way we respond and others respond to this is with a descriptive text. And of course, that can look very different from different types of vendors that try to respond to this tender. Then on the second example here is from Denmark. It's a public organization within the university world, so to say. A few millions of US dollars, so a smaller tender, but much more specific. And I would say easier to follow up questions. And these are, for example, then this happened to be for a PC, can you offer free PVC-free cables, and how many percentage of the products that you offer have PVC-free cables? And the second one has to do with eco-labels. Can you offer eco-labels? And if you can offer more than one, you will get extra award points and so on. And this is much easier when we reply, it's much easier for them to evaluate. In the first example here, we do not know the overall weight of sustainability, but in the second one for Denmark, we know that sustainability was 20% out of the total evaluation of the bid. But how important are sustainability criteria in tenders? Well, it's of course extremely difficult to give one figure, and here you see examples of the top notch, the top values that we know of really in recent years, like 2 years or even 3 years. So Norway, Stavanger, 60%, so sustainability criteria was even more important than price. Germany, 50% equal, very balanced, and that's just a very big tender, a federal organization, a federal customer. New Zealand, they wanted to include this because this is not Europe only. Of course, it has, sustainability is starting to be included in other parts of the world too. At 40%, that was a high weight of sustainability in that tender. But most often, if you want, if I had to say one figure, it would be 10%. Between 5 and 15% is a usual weight that we see of sustainability. But that's the award criteria. We very often see sustainability criteria or environmental criteria as compulsory parts of tenders. And then, of course, you either meet it or you don't, and you're out. So, but when it comes to the award criteria, it's usually somewhere between 10, 15, or even 20. Okay, so going into the tools. Now we kind of lay the foundation of what do others do and so on. And we've tried to make this easy. We have produced or gathered our knowledge, and also, based upon what we hear customers ask for and what customers want, we put together a sustainability IT purchasing guide. It's a broader document. It's more like if you want to start with this, and if you have time, you can go through that one. But then we have easy to use, directly usable tools, the top X as we call them, the top 12 for print, the top 8 for supplies, and these should be used together, and then the top 14 for PC. And here it says also public procurement, and that's just because, of course, public sector have to follow certain rules, and therefore we've started with this. We wanted to make, and we also wanted to make sure that they not only point to HP products when you use them, they should be balanced. And we've actually done competitive analysis ourselves, and they do not only point to our product. So we think we reached a state where we've taken into account what is really important from sustainability viewpoint. How can you easily verify these criteria? Is it something that everybody that every vendor could fulfill if they wanted to, and based on international standards and so on? So in these different, the 3 different sets of criteria, we have both environmental and social. Because, of course, sustainability is more than environment. So the social criteria are the same for PC and print. For PC, we have 10 environmental, and for print, we have 8 environmental. And they, especially for PC, for instance, they do address the fact that keeping a product in use as long as possible is the best option from sustainability viewpoint. So the PC one really talks about long life batteries and spare parts availability and so on. How to use them? Well, I wanted to be a bit specific here because we really hope that you follow the links and you go in and look at these after this webinar. So how to use? We look at, this is just an extract of the PC tool, and it says in red here, suggested text to include in tenders. You have the actual text, copy paste, and then the way to verify. And it is the same for print, so it has the document looks a bit different, but text to include in tenders, and then how to verify. For instance, here we mentioned, we also have ideas on what you can use as compulsory criteria and what you can use as award criteria if you want to take a step further. On energy efficiency, we suggest, although it's difficult, you need to spend some more time on it, but we suggest a certain percentage of a certain higher efficiency of the products, compared to what Energy Star limits are. That's something you could invest time in looking into, and you could award even more efficient products if you want. So these are options to use. Well, of course, there are other ideas and guides out there. There are actually quite many of those. It's not only HP. It's, for instance, I've selected here, Forum för bärighet inköp, ansvarig inköp in Denmark. That's one organization that produce different types of tools, guides, but of course they're also broader because they look into everything that a public sector purchaser would like to purchase. That's not only IT. And then, for instance, the organization that is standing behind the definition I mentioned on sustainable procurement, the ICLAI, they have something called the Procura Plus manual, which is almost, close to 100 pages, but still it also covers everything that the public sector wants to buy, and maybe that's, it's the same for companies, of course. And they have lots of good ideas. The main takeaway here is that you do not have to try to reinvent the wheel. There are tools out there, and I really recommend that you go and have a look for them. There are both guides and different tools you can use. And then, of course, we don't necessarily agree with everything that is in these tools, because it's actually quite difficult to make, how should I say, to really try to make a balanced criteria that will give you what you want, so to say. Anyway, most of it we recommend.
So we've kind of come to the end here, and I wanted to sum up how you start and continue. But first, I also wanted to sum up what we talked about. We talked about the definition of sustainable procurement, that it's a kind of broad, it's supposed to bring you value for money, but also the society in general, so to say, taking into account environment, social topics, and of course financial topics. So it's kind of broad. And then we talked about the global trends moving. I would say that in the coming years we see that the trends and the interest of customers moving towards more labor topics and social topics in supply chain, and we see that a lot actually in the Nordics. We see that out of the, in the tenders we register, there are over 20% that has supply chain responsibility topics included in the Nordics, compared to around 4 or 5% in the rest of the world. So it's really an interesting topic for the Nordics, so to say. And then we talked about also, how much are sustainability criteria used? Well, and that depends, of course. There in our region, in Denmark and in other Nordic countries, it's very much, it's usually included, sometimes as compulsory and sometimes not that often as award criteria. We would really like, organizations to think about including it as an award criteria, because it pushes us to be even better. So that's always good. But and then when they are included, what are the weight? So you had, you know, Stavanger 60%, and then like Germany 50% out of the weight. That's not normal. It's usually when you have sustainability included, it's between 5 and 15, maybe around 10. And we kind of recommend 15, of course, to have that weight 15% of sustainability in the total evaluation. And then we looked into the tools. We really hope that you will take this, you know, how should I say, opportunity to look into simple tools like the ones we have produced for our type of products. And we are working more on this. We're going to look into other, you know, services, for instance, and circular products and so on, moving forward. But then, just to sum up how to start, how to continue. If we look at the kind of the flow here, so you probably have organizational goals that needs to be met, and you've within the IT department have been asked to contribute. And can IT contribute? And our firm belief is yes, we can. We can contribute with waste-related goals or energy efficiency-related goals or maybe work efficiency-related goals. And I think also we suggest that appointing a leader or some sort of coordinator is very good, because then you can, there needs to be somebody that spends a bit of time to really to kick off sustainability in procurement in your organization. Look for tools and best practices, the third step here. Please do not I mean, I wouldn't say you can't, but there are so many good ideas out there. It's more like you will benefit so much from using them rather than developing your own. Don't reinvent the wheel, as they say. And then the fourth step here is that depends on what you're planning to do. I mean, check acceptance and support from your users, because if you plan things like moving to reducing the number of printers, for instance, and most departments have already done this, you have like a big department printer, you know, but just checking if that's how they perceive this. And, you know, if you start to look into pre-owned equipment like PCs and stuff, what you need to, of course, inform the users in a way so that they accept and support this move. Set goals. I mean, it doesn't have to be really broad goals. Pick one or two, like you're going to include a number of criteria in your next tender. And with the overall weight, this is really important, because if you only include criteria without putting any weight to it, it's just a, you know, shuffling information between the vendor and you as a user, and you won't benefit from it. And we recommend absolutely more than 15% out of the total evaluation of the tender. And then follow up, you know, what happened, did you also, how should you say, during the lifetime of the contract, you can follow up how much better are the products that you get the next year compared to the first, and so on. And here you can request, of course, the supplier to help you and assist you. That's what we see a lot. So that's just to kick you off into the journey. And then I just wanted also to share the links to our guides, and I really recommend the directly applicable text that you have in the you know, in the top 12, 8 and 14, as they say here. And with this, I would really like to thank you for your time, and there will be an option to also send some questions, and I hope you have questions for us now. And thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this.